Welcome back, guys. Thanks for tuning in again. I have hardware problems, but that's no problem of yours, so thank you very much for looking past my terrible edit today. And without further ado, let's just... Albert Camus, when he released this book, actually published 2 books. Whether he was aware of it or not, he did. The first book is the book that I read some years ago. The first book is the one that says it's okay to feel the way that you do. That you're not the only one who does, you're not the last one who will, and you're certainly not the first one who ever has. There's nothing wrong with these feelings. They're dark, they're confusing, but everybody feels them in one way or another. And then you have the second book. I just discovered the second book. It's fantastic. It's much better. It has a much better message behind it. Mersault, the protagonist of this story, is the wisest, oldest child I've ever even heard of. And by the end of this analysis, you'll understand what I mean when I say that. Ironically, some of you already assume that you do understand. So without further ado, let's just jump on into it and get started with the analysis of The Stranger by Albert Camus. Personally, one of my favorite books of all time. Okay, time for our very first quote. First line of the story. Here we go. Maman died today. Or yesterday, maybe. I don't know. I got a telegram from the home. Mother deceased. Funeral tomorrow. Faithfully yours. That doesn't mean anything. Maybe it was yesterday. It's relatively ironic that I'm trying to analyze this because that line doesn't mean anything. It suggests a great deal, but it has no innate meaning. What doesn't mean anything? His mother's death? Saying that the death occurred yesterday? The telegram itself? Well, actually, it's the entirety of the telegram taken as a whole. That doesn't mean anything to Monsieur Mersault. Mersault is... This is hard to quantify, because I'm going to try not to label him too hard. However, he does fit into a grouping of philosophies. He may be a skeptic like myself. I personally consider myself to be the most like a skeptic. He may also be a nihilist. He can be an existentialist. He could be a determinist. But either way, he's one of these ists, you see. One of the ones that think the world is what it is, and there's nothing hidden about it. There's no intrinsic meaning or value behind the things we do, the things we experience, and the world that we live in. I personally subscribe to that, and I understand how Monsieur Mersault does as well. Now, when I say this, what I actually mean is that Mersault is a relatively literal man. He doesn't care for the pomp and the ritz of articulate speech. He doesn't care about the who's, what's, when's, and where's. Well, actually, that's exactly what he cares about. He doesn't care about the whys. He tries to be factual. You could liken him to a scientist in his mind. He tries to avoid speaking in absolutes, absolutely. Ha! This is the type of man who would have actually preferred a telegram that said, "Your mom is dead. Your mother is dead," would have been the perfect telegram to have sent Mersault at that time, at the beginning of the story when he begins writing. That would have had meaning to him. The meaning that he doesn't have to interpret, the meaning that's right in the face. Your mother is no longer alive is the meaning behind a telegram like that. But all this passed away yesterday, doesn't matter. Faithfully yours, I don't care. To the fact that it's even a bloody telegram, whoop-de-doo, Basil! The man can't be bothered with all this superfluous information that the verbally affluent throw around. Again, ironic that I'm using these words. Now, in his own words, that telegram was meaningless to him. It meant nothing. It meant absolutely nothing to him. However, he managed to make an awful lot of decisions based on meaninglessness, and that indicates the point I'm going to be raising here. You'll see these connections being made. the dichotomy between what he says and thinks and what he feels and does. He isn't the kind of man who doesn't think anything means anything. He's the kind of man who constantly tells himself that nothing matters. He doesn't believe it. He wants to. I mean, he believes it, but he hasn't rationalized that comparative to the things that he very clearly feels, believes, wants, thinks, desires. Things mean things to him. He just doesn't fully realize it. Now, that was hard. I didn't want to talk about that line. There's a reason Camus used that as the first line in his story. It is excessively hard to look at only one particular way. There are a number of different ways you can look at a line like that, and I'm extremely interested to hear what you guys think. So go ahead and drop down to the comments right now. Tell me what you think. Be forewarned, there's a very strong chance that your comments will be featured in an upcoming video. So, moving right along, this is taking a little bit longer than I intended to. There's a lot to dissect here. Now this, I believe, to be one of the most important observations I personally made about the story. Tense. Maman died today. Not tomorrow, not 3 days ago. Today. That's present tense. Or maybe yesterday. That's past tense. If now is today and present tense, and yesterday is past tense, you're writing these things or thinking these things as they're happening. It seems to me that the majority of these quotes, the majority of the feelings and things that Mersault shares, the vast majority of things that he says suggest that we are either reading, when we read The Stranger, we're either reading his monologue at the end of the day, or we are actually reading his journal. Why have I not seen this indicated before? That changes so much. You can't call a person a blankopath. You can't call somebody a psychopath or a sociopath or such and such because you pulled out their journal and started fucking reading it. Okay. I'm really struggling with this, guys. I'm really struggling with this. It's the dichotomy of the novel. It's... Dissecting this is like swimming through chunky peanut butter, you guys. I keep slowing down to an almost stop, and it's hard to get started again when I just get right in there. But what is life ultimately, other than attempting to separate that which makes sense from that which does not? So we're going to keep trying, and forgive me if my format changes a little bit here. Anyway, on to the races. Off to the races. In and out to the races. Mersault is not a psychopath. Mersault is not a sociopath. Not even close. As a matter of fact, he falls in love with Marie. Oh, but he says he doesn't love her. Oh, blah, 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 blah. No, he doesn't. He says he doesn't think he loves her. But he suspects that it doesn't matter. I don't think I love you. No, you don't. Because you don't think love, you feel it. And you've shown very clearly that you feel it. Very, very clearly. For example, there's a quote, I'll pull it up here, where Mersault goes on to say, Marie does something adorable, and Mersault says, for the first time, I truly knew we were getting married. That's love. Have you ever had that? Have you ever had that moment where you're like, for the first time, I knew I was in the right place? That's love. Mersault feels it. He hasn't been able to rationalize it against his realist beliefs, his nihilism, if you will. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Self-fulfilling prophecy. That's what Mersault does every single time he opens his mouth and says, doesn't matter. Real good example of this from the book. Mersault's boss comes up to him and says, hey, I'm thinking about opening up a shop in Paris. You want to go work in Paris? And Mersault just kind of goes, not really. And that's it. And the takeaway from that, I find it, the takeaway from that, a little bit funny. The boss gets upset with him and says, that's not the way to get ahead in business. And the next line is, So I went back to work. Oh, you see that? That's humor, man. That's good shit. Who says old French Algerians can't be fucking funny? Anyway, later in the book, we go on to find out that he already lived in Paris and found it somewhat dirty. If he said that to his boss, the whole situation would have changed. But since Mersault kept telling himself that where I've lived in the past doesn't matter for this conversation, that became the truth. That's the way it shook out. This is a little bit of a difficult concept to get across, but I have faith in you. Something tells me you probably don't even need to hear this. Something tells me you already know it, whether up front or subconsciously. The things that matter, there's no set list of things that matter. Everything matters and nothing matters at the exact same time. You need to decide what to consider to have value when you're making decisions. It's vitally important. Now, this video has been very, very difficult. I'm not going to lie to you. I've had to move. I'm in the process of moving. It's been a ride. I don't even have a computer. My camera, I shit you not, is my phone taped to the wall. I'm using this giant window and I've run out of daylight. I have a deadline tomorrow. These are things I'm going to work on. We're clearly no longer talking about the stranger. What I'm getting at here is that I'm going to make a part number dose. I can't even tell if you can see me anymore, man. Can't see my own... okay. I'm going to make a part number dose. That's going to be the next video I release. I'm going to finish this up. I'm going to take the second half of the book, specifically from bang bang to fade to black, I guess you could call it. And you should swing by and check that out. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can see when that video is coming. You're going to love it. I'm going to take the time to get it right. I guarantee you that. Now, I'm going to leave you with two things. One, thank you. Thank you for watching. Seriously. And the second thing I want you to keep in mind, this one is about the book. All of the first-hand sources, every single one of them who met Mersault in one of these moments he will go on to be judged for. Every single one who met him firsthand understands him, and they're on his side. Marie, they say, oh, clearly he didn't care about his mother's passing away because he went on to go see a Fernandel comedy movie with this lady. That lady was there. She knows that he was grieving. You're trying to get through this process however it takes, and if you dare judge the way a man grieves, a person, grieves, you've got a serious problem. There's something wrong with your operating system. Another example. The director, he might not have been the director of the old folks' home. He understands when Mersault says, I do not want to see my mother. And for the record, so do I. A lot. I might touch on that in my next video. I might draw some correlations between things I've been through and things Mersault has been through, and explain why this book is so critical, why I think every single person should read this. And now, that's where I'm going to leave it, because if I keep talking, I'll keep talking, and we can't be having that. So, you have yourself a good old day. Don't forget to like and subscribe, bud. Big fan of yours. Drop your comments in the comment section down below. And don't forget, I would really appreciate it if you would analyze that first line for me. I really want to know how you think. I really want to know what the people watching this video take from these things. So that's going to do it. Watch out for my next one. Thanks so much. Cheers, bud.